conversation about your money. Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist, and you are here for Black women in toxic jobs, how to get your money right so you can leave that toxic job. So I have a very special guest, and I just want to say that I know Dr. Rosché through my previous coaching program, through my coaching program with Dr. TK, and I've learned so much about money and really rethinking money and getting my money together so I can leave my toxic job. So Dr. Rosché has been so helpful for me, and I was a part of her coaching program as well. So you'll hear a little bit more about that. So Dr. Rosché, I'll have you introduce yourself.
Okay, well, hello, everybody, and thank you so much, Dr. Kamani, for having me. But my name is Dr. Rosché Brown. I am also known as the Doctor of Rethinking because I help people to remix their thinking so they can make money, manage money, and of course, multiply their money. And
Yes.
so I say to everybody that's out there, if you're trying to make some money, put some ones in the chat. If you want to manage it, put another 2 in the chat. And if you're trying to multiply it, go ahead and put 3 in the chat because you want your money to have money babies.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Money babies. I like that.
Yes.
I like that. So, Dr. Rosché, recently I did a LinkedIn poll, right?
Okay.
And I asked Black women, if you're in a toxic job, what keeps you at that job? And the vast majority of people said finances. They're concerned about not being able to pay their bills.
Yes.
So I said, you know what? Let's just talk directly about that in terms of really helping Black women get their money together, right? So they have a cushion, so they feel more comfortable transitioning to another job. So wondering if today maybe we could I see 1, 2, and 3 in the chat, right? Okay. All of it. I got you. Yes. So in terms of thinking about what are our possible options in terms of getting that cushion together, what would you advise to Black women who are watching today?
So this is a general thing. Like sometimes we understand it, but we don't always put this in practice. But overall, we do need to look at your money. Oh, that's where the anxiety comes from. People don't want to look at it. So that's where it already started. But it's really just you have to look at it. So look at all of your expenses. So that's going to be number one. I tell people to track their expenses, even, whatever month that you're in, go to the previous month and literally go back and say, what did I do on, like say January 1st? What did I spend? January 2nd, what did I spend? You need to actually understand exactly what you do. It's teaching you the patterns that you have with your money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will often notice like, oh, maybe I'm going to Starbucks every day. That could be a potential level of savings that you're just not paying attention to. Right. Another level of savings that might be important that you might want to just look at is like maybe dining out. So maybe you're like door dashing, maybe you're stressed out, you don't have no time to cook when you get home. So you find yourself door dashing constantly, which was a big thing that started to happen, particularly after the pandemic. People didn't even want to go out. So now not only are you dining out, which is already an expense, but now you have all the fees along with dining out for your convenience.
Yes.
So you definitely want to just look at what's going on and then kind of evaluate, what in here is like a fixed expense. What are the expenses that I can't do anything about, right? Like, your rent, your mortgage is going to stay the same. Maybe a car note stays the same. Maybe, maybe your PG&E, your electricity. I know I'm in California. It's called something in different places, right? But like electricity, it's probably around the same, particularly may change based on the season. But you want to look at what are those things that are fixed. And then look at the things that are variable, which is like that dining out that you're doing, that you don't have to do, right? Even maybe check that gym membership that you're like, I'm going to go, but it's still been a year, right? Yeah. It may be time to just let it go at this point.
Right.
You know, so you kind of do those things, like really look at the fixed, evaluate the fixed expenses. Then after looking at the fixed, you want to also look at, what are the variable expenses? And then you want to look at renegotiating some of your plans. Now, this is a huge area of like savings for people and it can increase cash flow. So you look at like your cable bill. You may want to call them and see if there's any promotions. I do this I tend to do this like once a year, but it's super important because if you were able to do this, you may notice that you may go from a $300 bill to maybe a $200 bill. Well, now that's $100 worth of savings.
Right.
Maybe it's a phone bill. That's another thing
Mm-hmm.
you can definitely negotiate is a phone bill. And when you look at a phone bill, they used to often have promotions. I went from being on one of the popular, plans to Xfinity, right? Which is actually pretty popular. People know about Xfinity, but Xfinity Mobile, I went from paying a $300 bill to a $70 bill.
Wow.
Huge, huge. Look at
Yes.
that level of savings. Huge for
Yes.
three people on a bill, $70.
Wow. That's
Right?
amazing.
So now that's some extra cash flow that you can now start stacking up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are
Mm-hmm.
like the practical things, like in the very beginning, that you want to just really look at, track your spending, pay attention to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
Mm-hmm.
want to go to the next level after tracking your spending and evaluate, what don't I really need? And then you also want to do the third thing, which is renegotiate. Is there some other areas that I can negotiate? And also like memberships. I mentioned the gym membership, jokingly, but it's kind of serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many memberships that we say that we're going to get to. It may
Mm-hmm.
be courses that you're like, oh, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
look at that course, but you're too tired, you never pay attention to it, and you're paying a
Mm-hmm.
monthly fee on it.
Mm-hmm.
It could be stuff like
Yeah.
that. It might be things that are duplicates. Maybe you have Apple Music and Spotify. Like, why do you need
Mm-hmm.
both? They do the same
Right.
thing, right? Like, you
Right.
have to think about those kinds of things and say, let me just go ahead and get rid of it. And in your mind, you're like, I make six figures. What is $10 a month going to do? Well, if you
Mm.
get a couple of $10 a month, it's going to make a big difference,
Yes. Yes.
right? So those are things
Absolutely.
to really pay attention to.
Yes. So I'm curious also, because I remember in the
Yeah.
coaching program you talked to us about credit cards, right?
Yes.
And following up to a credit card company to see if you can increase the limit. Can you talk a little bit about
Yes.
that and why you might want to do that?
Yes. So quick education about credit. So credit scores are based on your credit usage to your credit availability. Okay. Credit usage to credit availability. And this is something that's very important before you start making like maybe bad decisions. Maybe your credit is in a good place. This is the time to start asking for credit increase. And a lot of times we get scared of it. Just because you ask for an increase does not mean you have to use the money. Okay.
Key
That's
point.
very important. And make sure you tell
Yes.
yourself that before you ask for the increase. Like say, I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking for this increase, but I'm not going to use this money. But I
Mm-hmm.
am doing this for the future decision that I may tend to make. You know what? If I decide to leave my job, I need that room and that availability regarding my credit, just in case I do
Mm-hmm.
need it. So right,
Mm-hmm.
maybe your credit cards right now are maybe they're at 5,000 limit. It may be
Mm-hmm.
good to say, how can I move this to 10, maybe even 20,000 right now? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. But another area of like renegotiation is the interest rates, which is what I think you're talking about, Dr. Kamani,
Mm-hmm.
is the interest rates. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you may be paying an interest rate, for a long time. You never even think that you
Mm-hmm.
can even change them. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe your interest rate was 21%, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you call the company and you literally just say, hey, I've been with you for a while, can you lower my interest rate? They will go to the lowest interest rate that is possible for you. And that may look like 15%. It may even look like 11%. So
Ooh.
now you looking at your fees, monthly fees. It's another like cash flow insert. You were paying I don't know, $100 in fees on interest. Now you
Mm-hmm.
switched it up and now you're only paying maybe $50 in fees. Now that extra $50 can go towards that debt to actually bring that debt down.
Ah, okay. And then can you just briefly share also in terms of, I just found it just so valuable. You
Uh-huh.
talked about um, being in a relationship with your money,
Yeah,
right? So nurturing your money, paying attention to it. You talked a little bit about the expenses, but the
yeah,
emotional connection we have with money,
yeah.
one. And then number two, the other part that you talked about, just recognizing ways you could pay off credit, right? The
Mhm.
avalanche and what's the
Yes,
snowball methods.
yes, yes.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, real quick about relationship, so you have to think about money is a relationship. It legitimately is a relationship. And so we want to think about your relationships you have around you, right? Maybe your relationship with your significant other, maybe, parent relationships, mother, father, your siblings. So think about your relationships and think about the relationships that do well in your life. The
Mm,
relationships that do well in your life, what do you do? right? You may
Mhm. Mhm.
communicate with that person more frequently, right? You're nurturing that relationship, you're engaged with that relationship, you're paying
Mhm.
attention to that relationship. And so that's the same thing that we need to do with our money. We need to
Mm.
pay attention because often a lot of times we'll avoid looking at the money,
Mhm.
but we need to start
Mhm.
paying attention to it. We can't
Mhm.
ignore it. We have to now say like, well, oh, what are my numbers? Like I'm saying, tracking your spending. That's
Yes.
the level of engaging. That's communicating with your with your money. So
Mhm.
you want to understand that it is a relationship, and if you've had a negative relationship with it in the past, it's time to change it. You
Yes,
know,
you can heal from that.
say it again.
Yeah, you can heal from
You can
your
heal from it.
traumatic
You can heal
experiences with
from it.
money. Yes.
Right. We both are psychologists. We understand that healing is actually possible. So
Yes.
you can definitely heal from whatever like past money traumas that you've had that have
Mhm.
led you to have the level of avoidance or maybe even like I'll even say ignorance around money. I
Mhm.
often will say, we know in psychology that our thinking impacts our feelings, which impacts our
Mhm.
behavior,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
if we see the behavior of avoidance, what's going on underneath that that's
Yeah.
leading that, right? What kind of
Yeah.
feelings of anxiety, depression, what are the thoughts that are contributing to those type of feelings? And we
Yeah.
want to really try to work through those things. So that's
Yeah.
like the basic psychology aspect. And it's going to
Yes.
take some work, right? You're not going to just do it tonight and it's good tomorrow.
Yes.
Understand that relapse is a part of the process, right? So
Yes.
you might start doing good and you may fall back to familiar patterns, but that's
Mhm.
normal. Okay, that's just a
Yes.
normal process.
And
Um,
forgive yourself and know that you can do better the next day,
yes,
right? So it's not all is lost.
exactly. Forgiveness,
Mhm.
very
Yes.
big key. Forgiveness.
Yes. Yes.
I was looking at something and it said, don't continue to look through the rear view mirror, right?
True.
So sometimes
True.
we're looking at the rearview mirror and all the stuff that's happened in the past. We
Mhm.
feel guilty that we didn't manage our money correctly, or
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
we should have
Or it's
done
too
it,
late,
shoulda, woulda.
right? Or it's too late. I
Yeah,
can't do anything now. It's not too late.
it's not too late. It's not too late. So
Mhm.
it's still an opportunity for you to, start looking forward and
Yeah.
say, I can do something different with my life and with my money. So that's
Yes.
around the
Yes. Yes.
relationship part. Now kind of going to the debt part, because that is a scary relationship, I
It
would
is.
say, with the
It's
money.
like toxic. It's like, no, I don't want you.
Exactly. Yes. It's the most toxic. And I would say when it comes down to debt, there's different ways to tackle it.
Mhm.
But most important thing, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to write them down. Here it goes. It's all that level of like mindfulness. We have to get mindful of what's going on. And
Right.
so what you want to look at from your debt, you want to, put the credit card name. You want to even put the credit interest rate, right? So that like we were just talking about interest rate. So put down what
Mhm.
is my interest rate. A lot of the people
Mhm.
don't even know. We don't pay attention to that.
Mhm.
So look and see what your interest rate is.
Mhm.
Then you want to look at what your balance is. How much do you have on that card? But you
Mhm.
also want to look at what your limit is. Okay. So put all those down in like a Excel sheet. You can put columns on a notebook, and you want to just have an understanding of those different columns. Okay. Then after that, you want to do it for all of your credit cards and even loans. So if you have like some outstanding loans, you want to do the same thing with those outstanding loans.
Mhm.
And there's two different methods that you can do. And it's really about the method that feels good to you and psychologically makes sense to you.
Mhm.
So there's the snowball technique. Now, the snowball technique is often the most popular, honestly.
Mhm.
It's the one that you take the lowest balance. So
Mhm.
the lowest balance of your cards. You want to
Mhm.
make sure, number one, that you're paying the minimum on each of them. So make sure you pay the minimum of each of them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Then when you have your extra money, meaning
Mhm.
that now that you've looked at, your expenses, you looked at your income, you
Mhm.
minus your expenses. So let's say, give you some examples. Let's say you bring in $10,000 a month and you're
Mhm.
spending 9,000. Let's say you have
Mm.
$1,000 left over. What
Mhm.
you want to do is, pay the minimums on all the cards, and then you want to start allocating that $1,000 to the lowest balance.
Mm.
Okay.
So you can
And
knock that
so with
out.
I said, yeah, knock it out. That's the
Mhm.
technique. So now you're like, okay,
Mhm.
lowest balance. Knocked it out. I feel good about it. So maybe in like 6 months, you're like, wow, that credit card is completely, paid off. Now
Yes.
I can allocate that $1,000 plus whatever that minimum was that I was putting on there. and add that to the next credit
Mm.
card.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. And so then you might feel more accomplished
Yes.
because you're
Yeah.
like, wow, I had 4 or 5 outstanding credit cards. Now it's gone down to 3 or 4 of them. So,
Right.
oh, wow, I feel accomplished. I can
Yes.
definitely do this, you know?
Mhm.
So that's the
Mhm.
snowball technique. And I think that's why people like it is because of the accomplishment.
Yeah.
Now I like, a little bit more of an avalanche technique. And the avalanche technique is looking at the interest rates. So
Mm.
as we were talking about interest rates, we
Mhm.
realized that the interest rates can make you pay way more in more towards the fees,
Yeah.
basically, right?
Yeah.
So if we're able to look, if we have like let's say 3 credit cards and one of them is at 25% and the
Ooh.
other two is one's 14 and one is 11, well, the
Right.
one that's 25%, we want to knock that one out first,
Yes.
even if it's possibly the highest balance.
Hmm.
Okay, because you're
Yeah.
paying the most in fees with that card,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And it could be so much, right? you might
Yeah.
you might notice like every single month you're like, this is never going anywhere, right? And
Mm.
that's another thing
Mhm.
that tends to happen with people as they pay their debt off. They look
Mhm.
at a minimum, right? let's say
Mhm.
let's say you have a balance of $10,000 and
Mhm.
you're like, oh, the minimum is only $50. Well, I'm gonna put 100. I'm doing something, right? That's what we feel, right? We're like, I'm
Uh-huh.
doing something because I'll put
Right.
100. I'll put an extra $50,
Yes.
not realizing that it has a 25% interest rate, and you
Mm.
may literally be paying $200 in fees. So you're
Wow.
paying $100, but you're doing a $200 fee. You see what I'm saying?
Oh man. Yes.
And
Yes.
you're looking, you're like, why? I've been paying this for a whole year and it's still at $10,000.
Right. Because you're not paying attention to the interest rate.
Exactly.
Yes.
So those
Yes.
are things to really like, start to get, build that relationship and build that connection with your debt,
Yes.
as well as like your money, so you can have that
Yeah.
good relationship so you understand what should I be doing here. I
Yes.
had a client once, and this was just very important. She actually was a
Mhm.
psychologist too, but I had a client once, and when we were looking at her on how she was paying like $300-400 payment, but she didn't realize she had also opted in for a like a credit something, like they have different like things like you can, I think it was an credit identity something,
Mm.
and
Okay.
so and it cost $100 a month.
What?
It was, yeah. And
Oh,
it
that's
was some type of
ridiculous.
insurance, and you could do different things with the insurance, but she didn't understand it, didn't even know she even had it. So she never
Wow.
utilized it. What the benefits of this plan. She never used it because she didn't even realize
Mm.
it. So now you're
Mm.
paying a $300 payment. $100 of it is going towards a program that you're not using.
Oh, that's
And
ridiculous.
then you have fees.
Yeah. Oh no.
Right? So
That's
now
bad
your
all the way
brain is
around.
like, what? I'm paying $300 a month and it's not going nowhere. Like you will feel like you're going crazy when it comes
Right.
down to debt.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So those
But
are
I think
things
when
we
we
just
get
have to pay
ahead of
attention to.
it and we have a better understanding of it, then it feels more manageable, right? And I can attest,
Exactly.
thank you to you. I paid off one of my credit cards. I'm so happy about that. Yes,
Hey,
yes, yes. I got
yes,
one more to go. But I'm making
yeah,
progress. And
yeah,
I used all the information you told me and I
yeah.
applied it, right? And I have to say this about
Congratulations.
you too, Dr. Roche,
Say it one more
is
time.
that I have to say this about you too. When I came into Dr. Roche's coaching program, I had a very avoidant relationship with money, right?
Mhm.
And Roche was like, you got to connect to it, right? You
Yes,
got to nurture a relationship. And I have a totally different relationship to money now. So thank you
yes.
so much for that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes,
Congratulations. Really for
thank you.
implementing it and seeing it. Because that's another thing. Sometimes we never see that there's an end to our
Yeah.
debt. And
Yes.
so even just like plotting it out on an Excel calendar or something, just seeing like
Hmm.
if I was to pay this $1,000, like how long will it take?
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to take me 12 months. Well, you'll
Yeah.
understand, oh, 2024 is going to be my year because
Yeah.
I'll have all my debt done.
Yes,
Right.
yes, yes, yes.
So it's
And
possible.
I want to see also, Dr. Shea, if you can talk a little bit about ways that sometimes people use money or purchases as like self-soothing, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I remember reading a comment in the chat one time when I did interview about Black women in toxic jobs, and
Yeah.
she talked about she's in a toxic job, but she makes sure that she looks just slamming every day she goes to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's dressed to the nines, right? So all that money to help her feel better. Can you
Yes.
speak about what that's like in terms of the psychological connection, in terms of money and purchases and self-care, and
Yeah.
ways to really address that?
Yeah. I mean, so just kind of in psychology, they say that the way that the brain fires is the way that the brain will wire, right? And so what does that actually mean? So that
Mm-hmm.
means like if we look back at your money memories, like what was your first memory towards money? If we
Mm-hmm.
were to look at your money story, what is the story that you now have developed about money that you may have developed a long time ago, but it's still here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Looking at also your money models, like the people who modeled money for you, we can
Mm,
then see exactly where this showed up, right? So we understand
true.
even just in regular psychology that if we trace it back, we can develop a case formulation as to like how did you become who you are today,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
And so a lot of times, people might experience like retail therapy
Mm-hmm.
as a self-care or self-soothing method
Mm-hmm.
because somebody else taught them that as a
Yeah,
child.
yeah,
That's what they
yeah,
saw. They saw everybody
yeah.
else like we looked good,
Mm-hmm.
looking good made me feel good, but not
Right.
understanding that that also only made you feel good temporarily,
Yes. And you
right?
feel worse after, and you're further in the hole of the situation and stuck there even longer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're carrying this mask, right?
Yes.
So now that you have this mask on, you have to like keep up with the Joneses,
Yes.
right? And you're actually like vibrating at a negative frequency, right? Because you're feeling
Yes.
like guilty, you feeling
Yeah.
scared somebody gonna find out, you embarrassed,
Yeah.
and that's a
Yeah.
negative frequency, and you're wondering why more money's not coming to you. It's because
Hmm.
the frequency that you're actually on. So you
Mm-hmm.
attempt, maybe you're at a W-2 job and you're like, I want to leave this job. It's toxic. I
Yeah.
want to start a business.
Yeah.
But you're on a frequency that is not allowing and attracting money to come into your business. Right.
Hear you. Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's why we have to kind of break some of those patterns, right? You have to tell
Yeah.
yourself, I have enough clothes in my closet. Right?
Yes.
Nobody else even understands who these designers even are. It's not even that big of a deal. I don't need more.
Right.
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 Like,
Right.
and you have to begin the process of like detaching from like just continuously getting new stuff.
Yeah.
And also, of course, I'm a big a person that thinks that people should go to therapy, of course, right?
Absolutely.
And so you also may want to figure out what's that underneath. Remember, we were
Yeah.
saying behavior is what we see, is the retail
Yeah.
therapy. What feeling is being fueled, and what is that thought pattern that's being fueled? And if we
Yes.
start realizing, like, really, I might be depressed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and even
Mm-hmm.
though I still go to work every single day because I know that I
Mm-hmm.
must go to work every day,
Mm-hmm.
even if it feels toxic, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that I'm not experiencing depression, right? It
Right.
doesn't mean that I'm not experiencing anxiety,
Yeah.
finding myself, not able to go to sleep, especially
Yeah.
when it's time to go to work the next day,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, feeling
Mm-hmm.
fatigue, not able to make good
Mm-hmm.
decision making,
Yeah.
all of these things that are happening to you because of the work stress and the workload that you placed on yourself, even the expectations of being in that environment. Whether
Yeah.
other people place them on you, it could be you who placed them on you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
based on the
Mm-hmm.
family life, that you grew up in.
Yeah.
You may have all these expectations that you're holding on to, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that we need to work through more therapy, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do
Yeah.
we work and break some of those attachments and connections that we have in our brain, so because
Yeah.
they're now impacting other aspects of our lives, such as how we're
Yeah.
managing money.
Absolutely. And thinking about sometimes we're in a toxic job, we're masking anyway when we're in that toxic environment, right? And
Yes,
so the clothing, the jewelry, the purses, the shoes, that
yes,
might be part of the masking. But if
yes,
we deal with what is causing that, then we're
yes,
less likely to engage in that behavior, right?
exactly,
Okay.
yes,
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 yes, yes. So, Dr. Michelle, I'm wondering because you talked about the one, two, and three, right?
yeah,
Can you speak a little bit more in terms of those who came late, in
yeah,
terms of what the one, two, and three refer to? And like,
yes,
I think the three was like the money making babies, right?
yes,
So
yes.
can you speak to how to do each of those?
Yes. So the number one is making money. So if you want to make some money, put a one in the chat, put some dollar signs in the chat. Tell me I want to make some money, right? And so making money. of course, we know what that means, having a
Mhm.
job. If you're more of a W-2 worker, and in my past, I was a W-2 worker, 1099s, had multiple 1099s. I was involved in so many different things,
Mhm.
and not really chasing money, just chasing opportunity at the
Yes.
time. And but it also caused me to feel stressed because it was like too many things to focus on.
Yeah.
Right. So that could be the way that you're making money. But I really suggest for all people, even if you are in a W-2 job and you're making pretty good money, is to actually start a business, even if it's a small business on the side or a side hustle,
Mhm.
because it's going to help you also save more money in taxes if you
Mm.
have write-offs. Right. When you
Mm.
start to realize, like, oh my God, like, going on this trip, I go on 2 trips a year with my family.
Mhm.
Well, if I can make
Mhm.
it a business write-off,
Mm.
now some of that money is going to come back to me.
Right. Right.
Maybe you need self-care, right? You probably do.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
maybe
Yeah.
you go get a hotel for a weekend. Well, now that can be a
Uh-huh.
write-off, right? Because that was
Yeah.
the necessary for your business.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So those
And
are
let me
things
kind
to
of
think
say
about.
this too, Dr. Rosché,
Yeah.
is that if you have a side hustle, you have a job, then you have a side hustle. The side hustle can help transition you out of the W-2, right? So
Yes.
you start small and you can build up. That's exactly what I did. You can build up to
Yes.
eventually leaving. Yes.
Exactly. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the making money, aspect. Of course, we need to make it. That's
Yeah.
just how it goes. But
Yeah.
the second thing we have to do, and this is the place that we struggle at, is
Mm-hmm.
managing money.
Mm-hmm.
Managing. And so the second is managing your money. So how do we
Mm-hmm.
keep this money that we're working so hard for?
Yeah.
How do we do the right things by this money?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when we actually take the time to, like I was saying, looking at your money, see where it's going, and
Mm-hmm.
what do we do with the extra. When we notice that
Mm-hmm.
there's extra money at the end of the month, which is a
Mm-hmm.
good thing,
Yeah.
are you putting it inside of a savings account? Particularly, I suggest people get a high yield savings account.
Mm-hmm.
So a
Mm-hmm.
high yield savings account, you can just Google what's the best high yield savings account of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
But you go there because it's going to give you 2 to 3% on your money. So that's going to be higher than most of the popular banks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
even from a psychological, practical thing, I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
anybody out there has experienced this before, but you've seen that you have no money in your checking, but you have some money in your savings. What are you gonna do when you need some money?
Go
Right?
to savings.
You're gonna go to your savings and go transfer
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
moment, you know.
Yeah.
And the best thing about a high yield savings account is that it gives you the opportunity. It takes like 3 days before you actually get your money. So now, when you're out there
Mm.
about to possibly buy that purse or those shoes that we were talking about, now your mind's thinking, right? So your mind is like, wait a minute. I mean, I can't get the money right away. I'm not going to come back to the
Mm.
mall in 3 days.
Right.
Most people won't.
Right.
Some people will, but most people won't. So now
Yeah.
you've saved yourself from you, right?
Mm.
And so the
It's
high
a
yield savings
safeguard.
is that opportunity. And then
Yeah.
also, out of sight, out of mind. If
Yes.
we don't see the money growing somewhere, we're less likely to think we need the money,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
that's something to think about with managing your money. And then the
Okay.
third thing is multiplying your money. Multiply. That's what I say. Multiply. We need to have the money babies, right? So what does that look like? Well, if money is having money babies, that means we need to be investing it. So one other area of my life is that I'm a licensed life insurance agent. I
Mm-hmm.
think that life insurance, particularly the index universal life insurance policies, are the easiest way to passively grow your income. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
it's something that you can passively invest and multiply your money. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's one area. But then also
Mm-hmm.
stocks, right? Of course, stocks, being in the stock market, a lot of like big companies, Googles and Amazons and Apples, a lot of them are
Mm-hmm.
now affordable because they did what are called splits.
Mm-hmm.
So now you may have the ability to also start investing there. And that's an area
Mm-hmm.
for your money to make money, right?
Yes.
We have to put our
Yes.
money in places that it can do that and that it can
Yes.
grow with what's called compound interest. And like Albert Einstein says, compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, but he who doesn't will pay it.
Can you
So,
speak to what that is? Can you let the
yes,
audience know what it is?
yes. So there's two different types of interest. There's simple interest and then there's compound interest.
Mm-hmm.
So simple interest is like when you put your money inside of a bank, your money's just making money off of whatever you put in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But with compound interest, your money is making money faster, right? Like you ever heard like exponential. So it's going really fast. And the way that it's growing fast is that the principal plus the interest continues to grow on itself.
Mm.
Right. And so that's why it grows a lot faster than just placing your money in a bank. So if you
Got it.
place your money inside of a vehicle, like an investment vehicle, you'll notice that it starts doubling every few
Mm.
years, right?
Mm.
So depending on what the interest rate is, will tell you how fast is this money going to double. So you like, oh, I'm making 7%. Oh, my money's about to double like every 9 years, right? Oh,
Mm.
I'm making 15%. My money
Mm-hmm.
might start doubling every 3-4 years.
Mm.
And so that's what we're looking for, is our money to continue to double. That's just the wealth formula, right? Time
Yeah.
plus money equals wealth, right? Time plus money equals wealth. So we need to have some good money that's in there, and we have to give it
Yeah.
some time to grow. And if
Yeah.
we put it in the right places, the longer the time is, how many more doubling years do we have? The money's going to keep on
Mm.
doubling and doubling and doubling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're
Mm-hmm.
looking for, is for our
Yeah.
money to continue to double.
Yes, yes. So before I ask you the last few questions, I see
Yeah.
something in the chat. Pardon me if you said this, but another huge way to cut a massive expense is to empty your storage. Lots of folks have storage for 5, 10, 20 years. There
Yes.
can be a huge savings here. That's an excellent, excellent suggestion, right? And you
Yes,
don't need
definitely.
it, you don't need storage, right? So if you're not using it,
Yeah.
but I think that's psychological too, right? So
Yes.
sometimes we hold on to things because of the memory, and
Yes.
thinking about, are there other ways we can hold on the memory without holding on to the stuff, right?
Right, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah, that's the whole
yes.
other thing. It was always like this detachment. We gotta like, detach from certain things. And I
Yeah.
would say that too. I mean, in your household, if you're trying to increase cash flow,
Mm-hmm.
one way to increase cash flow is there's a lot of things you don't use that could be sold.
Mm,
Right? That's the
true,
extra money that's right there.
true.
Even the people that we're talking about who buys a whole lot of clothes, but they're not even gonna wear it again.
Sell it.
That sell the
Yes,
clothes. It doesn't even
yes,
matter if it's a cheaper price, but you now have an extra cash flow that's just showed up,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So those are things that you definitely can do.
Yeah. So as we're winding down, I'm just wondering, Dr. Rosché, if you could talk a little bit in terms of for exit planning. So if a Black
Hmm.
woman, I always say to Black women, I'm not telling anyone to leave your job immediately
Yeah.
unless you are in immediate danger, right?
Yes.
Physically, mentally, right?
Yeah.
But otherwise, please have a plan, right? And
Yes.
when I'm talking, I'm not saying just quit your job and never do anything else, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
talking about, okay, can you transition to something else? But if
Yes.
it's toxic, don't stay there, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, when we think about exit planning, can you break it down just a little bit in terms of if somebody needs to leave immediately, what are the financial things they could do?
Okay.
If they're leaving within 1 year, and let's say they're modeling after me, 3 years.
Okay.
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 So what are the different financial considerations for those different areas?
Okay. So let's talk about immediate. So if you feel like you want to leave immediately, it's still going to go back to that beginning stage. Look at
Mm-hmm.
your money today, right? If you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I might go in there and I'm in at any given time this week or this month, I may curse them out and leave. If that is the spirit that you have in right now, it's time for you to look at your money and see exactly how much money you need in order to survive, right?
Yeah,
So when you
yeah.
start doing your evaluation, you're going to look at your evaluation differently. The
Mm-hmm.
evaluation of your money, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to look at
Mm-hmm.
it like, okay, the bare minimum that I need to survive is I
Mm-hmm.
definitely need maybe my rent and my car note paid, right?
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
may be the main things that really, really matter. And you
yeah.
want to know how much that is. So like I need $3,000, right? That's what's already
Mm-hmm.
in your mind. You understand that that's there. Now, the second thing that you want to think about now, particularly if you feel like you need to leave right away, and maybe because you're having a mental health challenge, right? You're literally
Mm-hmm.
feeling, maybe panic attacks, anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
depression.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this is something that, only if it makes sense for you. So I'm not saying everybody
Mm-hmm.
should do this,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to think about, can I be taken off of work for disability?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
I notice, because I also work at an agency as a therapist, a lot of people will get so upset and they leave before
Mm-hmm.
asking for time off.
Mm.
And the problem with that is that now you're separated from the job. Now you can't
Hmm.
even get disability. You can't do the
Right,
disability because you're separated from the job at that point.
right,
So I
right.
do suggest that people separate by, going on like a medical leave. It
Hmm.
could be a mental health leave. And a
Hmm.
lot of places, depending on what your insurance company is, it may look
Hmm.
like 2 weeks. Maybe if you're going to a private practice clinician, you may end up having 6 months.
Mm.
Right? So just know that it's gonna vary depending on
Yeah,
who the person is giving you the leave off. But what
yeah.
that's gonna do is it's gonna give you some extra money during that time, right? And
Mm.
so disability
Hmm.
is usually, I believe, it's like 60% of what you make or something like that.
Hmm.
It's not gonna be your whole paycheck, but
Yeah.
once we understand that we are looking for the bare minimum, what can we do?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you now have money that's still coming in, but the
Hmm.
second thing that you want to do is also right after you make the separation from your job, is start
Hmm.
to contact your companies. So you want to start contacting the cable, your car, your electricity, your gas or whatever the case is.
Hmm.
Start
Hmm.
contacting them, letting them know you have a financial hardship and
Hmm.
what are some
Hmm.
opportunities that they have for their clients when they have financial hardship. A lot
Mm.
of them will say, oh, you don't have to pay for a month. Maybe you don't have to pay
Mm.
for 2 months. They will
Hmm.
actually give that opportunity, which gives you some breather room to
Yeah.
get disability starting to come in, and
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about paying those things versus letting them get behind.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Good.
So
So get in
that's
front
like
of
the
it.
immediate, right?
Yes. Yes.
Area. Now let's say
Hmm.
you have a year. Okay.
Hmm.
And this is something you can take a little bit more time. I would say the
Hmm.
year and the 3 year is a little bit about the same.
Okay.
You have a little bit of time. And so I would
Hmm.
suggest from a more spiritual state is to like take the time to journal. Okay.
Mm.
And journal, like, what are you looking for? What would your next life look like? Do you have a side hustle already? What would it
Hmm.
look like if you were doing that side hustle full time?
Right. Right.
Start your imagination, start going. Let's start
Yeah.
thinking about it because the brain can't even try to achieve something that it's never even imagined.
Mm.
Right? So we want to at least almost start imagining what would that look like so we can start
Yeah.
manifesting it in our lives.
Yes.
So that's like I know that's not a practical financial advice, but it
Hmm.
really helps the mind understand where it's going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I
Hmm.
would definitely suggest doing that, figuring
Hmm.
that out. And then you want to do some of the things that I said with the immediate, right? Like if
Hmm.
it is something that does feel mental health oriented,
Hmm. Hmm.
then you may plan a little bit more for it. So you
Yeah.
may find yourself saying, okay, well, I could definitely, I don't know, let's say, well, depending on what industry you're in, you're like, okay, I can finish out the school year. Or
Hmm.
like maybe if that can be something. Or you can say, oh, we're having a really tough time. We're in a transition. I don't mind staying here for another 3 months. And then from there, I'm gonna find my therapist.
Right.
I'm gonna get off, right? Like
Yes.
that could be part of the process.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And then also you use the time to build the other side hustle. So let's say you
Hmm.
do have a side hustle, a mental health therapist with a private
Hmm.
practice,
Hmm.
or maybe you're a nurse and you're a travel nurse, whatever it may
Hmm.
be. But you kind of
Hmm.
think about, what you have going on, and you
Yeah.
tell yourself, how do I make the bare minimum? Right, the bare minimum is 3,000 in this example
Hmm.
that I created. So
Hmm.
you're saying, how do I make 3,000? So if
Hmm.
I, was in private practice and the average client pays me $100,
Hmm.
then, how many clients do I have to see, or how many
Hmm.
client hours, right? It might not be
Yeah.
specifically clients, but how many client hours do I need every month in order to
Hmm.
get to $3,000?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of what you would start to think to yourself and say, like, okay, well, I will need, I don't know how many clients that is. What is that? 300 hours or something like that, right? 300
Hmm.
hours. No, 30 hours, right? 30 hours a month would get you to 3,000. Let me make sure. I want to make sure I'm
Girl, you see, I got quiet because I'm like, you the money lady.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I'm right. But I just want to make
I
sure.
don't even claim that.
Right. So you need 30 hours, right? 30 hours in order to make $3,000.
Okay.
So now you understand that. You're like, okay, I know exactly how many hours. Now you break those hours by week, divide it into 4. So that's about whatever, like 7, 8 hours every single week. and that's all I have to work. You're like, wow, I only have to work 7 or 8 hours versus 40 hours to make the bare minimum. So now your mind
Yes,
is going to be like, can I do that? And so your brain is going to be like, yes, I think I can. So
yes.
now that's going to make you feel good. You're like, well, where would these clients come from? So you want to start ask yourself questions, oh, I
Hmm.
have this opportunity, or I have this friend who might be able to give me referrals. So you
Hmm.
really start to make it live for yourself. Like, okay, this is
Yeah,
doable.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then also what you're going to start doing, especially if you have the ability to start working that job,
Hmm.
or that business, whatever money that you make in that business,
Hmm.
all of it should go towards savings. Oh my
Mm.
God, that's
The
so
high yield
scary.
savings.
A high yield savings,
Yes.
all of it. Try your best to not get used to adding that extra income
Mm.
to your total income, right? Because what will happen is, it's like, let's say you're making,
Your
you know,
expenses go up.
your expenses go up, right?
Right.
So what tends to happen to people is they, like, say that you make $5,000 at your job,
Hmm.
and now you get to the point where you're making $5,000 in your business, right?
Hmm.
But you're
Hmm.
living like you make $10,000.
Right, right.
But your mind will be like, I'm making the same amount of money at my job as I'm making at my business, so I can leave my job. But you started to live like 10,000.
Right, right.
That's going to really hurt you once you leave the job too soon.
Yes, yes,
You see
yes.
what
So
I'm
have a
saying?
plan in place
Have a plan,
as
have
much
a
as
plan in place.
possible.
So if the business has not like started, it's not up
Hmm.
and going yet, make sure you
Hmm.
can put all that money to the side. Put that in a high
Hmm.
yield savings account and then let it grow. I
Hmm.
often tell people, I
Hmm.
said, this is my suggestion, but I
Hmm.
understand that it's at different places for people. I do suggest people have 6 months of their expenses saved up.
Hmm.
Okay.
Before
That
they
is
leave.
like my total ideal experience, ideal situation of life, that you would have 6 months of your expenses saved up. So if that bare minimum is $3,000, I want you to multiply that by 6 and have like $18,000 sitting in the bank before you decide to leave.
Hmm. So let me just say this.
Yes,
That's ideal, right?
ideal.
We also want you to know that if it's not there, that does not mean that you still stay and withstand the torture,
Exactly. So
right?
that's what I'm saying. Like
Okay.
we look at the year and the 3 year person now, not the
Yes,
immediate. The
yes,
immediate
yes,
is, I don't have no savings. I better get some income still coming in,
yes.
disability, right? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
that's what we're thinking. But if you have a year, you have some time to start building on that, then I would
Hmm.
definitely say put some money to get to the side. That's what I say.
Hmm.
Like ideally, 6 months would be amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
But realistically, based on what I've seen people do, to just
Hmm.
be totally honest,
Hmm.
is they usually at least have a month of
Hmm.
their expenses to the side.
Mm.
So at least maybe having $3,000 saved up.
Yeah,
You don't have
yeah.
6 months, but you do have maybe 1 month saved up.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now you also need to believe in yourself, because that means when you leave your job, you only have 1 month.
Mm.
Right? So that's why you have to think about it. You only have 1 month. So
Hmm.
depending on how much savings that you choose is gonna determine how fast you need to work once you leave.
Got it.
Because you're gonna have to build things up afterwards, right? So
Yeah.
if you already know that you have a waiting list at that private practice, and you know that you can get other clients, you know that you can get on insurance panels, and there's not going to be a problem with you finding clients,
Hmm.
then 1 month is going to be good enough for you. And you just need to know, okay, well, this I need to ramp up pretty
Hmm.
quickly. There's
Yeah.
no like, ooh, let me take a month off of work because I don't want to work for a whole month in my life. And you don't
Right.
have that kind of time.
Right.
You don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you have the plan in place to make the income.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the
Yes.
more that you're able to save, the less of a maybe an anxiety experience that you will have once you decide to leave.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And
If you
again,
can get to
I think it's
two,
important.
3 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's so important to, like you said, have a plan, right? And
Yeah.
know that it's doable, right?
Yes.
Because many times we don't think it's doable because we don't have a plan. And so
Yeah.
then we end up staying stuck at jobs that we hate
Yes.
because we feel stuck, right? So we're
Yes.
giving you information, ladies, about how to get unstuck so you can
Yes.
get out of there. Okay.
Yes.
So, Dr. Rosché, can you share with the audience about what are the services that you offer and how can they contact you?
Yes. So I actually have like a few offerings. But the main offering that I have is, of course, another area that people often are nervous about is like, what about my benefits? Right. So
Yeah,
we think about benefits, we think about a retirement. We're like, what's going to happen to that?
yeah.
So on that level, I don't do health insurance, but I definitely tell people, we have Obamacare, to go there and actually start to get your health insurance together, right?
Mm,
Like you want to figure that out. But
hmm
also for retirement purposes, utilizing the life insurance as a multiplying your money tactic or strategy,
hmm
then you're able to also do a little bit more, and you're able to have enough for retirement with the life insurance. So I
mm,
help people. I'm a licensed life insurance agent. So I'm able to look at that and say, hey, let's start putting this money aside so you can end up multiplying your money.
mm,
Additionally, if you're leaving your job and you have a 401k or 403b or something like that, then I also can help you roll it over into something that continues to grow, and you're able to invest it as you separate from the job. Okay.
mm, hmm
The third thing is that if you want to like go a little bit deeper, now each one of those things come with a free ability for me to kind of look over your finances. I'm still gonna look at what's coming in, what's going out, and I'll still able to give you some brief strategies. But if you're interested in going a little bit more in depth, you're like, hey, I need some accountability, I need more education, I want somebody to kind of hold my hand through the process. Then I
hmm
have a financial coaching, program where we can actually work together one-on-one, which is what Dr. Kamani referenced. I mean, it's actually a group, but we'll have some one-on-ones as well
hmm
to look at your financial, situation, and we'll
Yes,
develop what is the goal and what is the plan to get you to the next level. So
yes,
I do that as well. Of course, I do have these books, so
yes.
I'll show you these real quick. I feel in the spirit that I'm going to develop a financial book very soon. It's just more about having time to get the book done. Dr.
Yes.
Kamani has already said, like, I need to give y'all a little short book of like, how do I leave my toxic job,
Yes,
and get
yes.
my money and
And
my
you're
mind
gonna come back
together.
on when you publish that book.
Yeah, so I will let you guys know. But this is the love month, right? This is the love month. So with this being the love month, I do have the 31-day self-love challenge. This was like the first, book journal that I actually created. This was like 2015. So it was like some years ago, that after I came out of a toxic relationship, I was like, hey, let me love on me. Right. So it may be even a process to just love on yourself, because a
Yes,
work relationship can feel like a toxic relationship as well. Right. So we
yes.
got to get back to loving ourselves more. But then also I have the dream journal. And the dream journal also is just an opportunity for you to dream again, right? And starts to, ask you more questions about your life and what you want to do. And for me in particular, I was 14 when I said I was going to become a psychologist and I was going to have a doctorate degree. And I wrote that down, and that's actually who I am. I had my doctorate degree when I was 25 years old. So I believe in what is written is real, right?
Yes.
That's what one of my coaches said. What is written is real. So when we put it down on paper, then it can become real and it can live for you. And this is just an opportunity for that as well with the dream journal. And soon coming out one day, it probably will be this year, I will definitely
Sometime
have a
soon.
money journal for people to really, understand, and it'll just kind of walk you through the process.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
And how can people contact you and how can people get the books?
Yes. So the books are on Amazon. So you can definitely go on Amazon. But also I would love for you to jump on a call with me. So it's free. FREE, right? It's free. It's free for you to jump on a call with me. You can go to workwithdrrosché.com. And so, everybody understands work with. Doctor is DR. And then also Rosché is ROSCHE. So that may be hard. Maybe take a screenshot of this, but workwithdrrosché.com. But you also can choose to go to remixingyourmoney.com, which may be a little easier. Remixingyourmoney.com. And what it'll do is give an opportunity for
Is
you
that
to,
right?
put your work with Dr. Rosché. Yes, there we go. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, workwithdrrosché.com goes straight to my calendar. If you just want a little bit of education, you can go to the remixingyourmoney.com. So it might be a little easier for you to remember. And that also will lead to an opportunity for you to jump on a calendar with me. And so I suggest, jump on, check out, I can understand your goals a little bit better, and I can help you understand like what you can do with your money or your decision making. Even if we don't end up directly working together until a year after you leave, at least, we'll be in a position that you have a plan.
Yes. So I
Okay.
want to say two things about your books, and then we're gonna wind down. So number one, in relation to your book about self-love, it's so important because when we think about being in these toxic jobs, how harmful it is, and it really causes us sometimes to question ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to doubt ourselves and to beat ourselves up and all those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
So when you want to leave, it's important to build yourself up and to practice self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and all those other things, right?
Yes.
So that's so important about the self-love. And then the part about dreaming is so
Yes.
important because many times, again, these toxic jobs, the dreams have been stolen, right?
Yes.
So the dreams that we had about the job have been stolen because of all the trauma that we're dealing with at the job, right?
Yes.
So Dr. Rosché talked about this, and I've talked about this before too. If you're in a toxic job and you could take a leave, please do that. Please do
Mm-hmm.
that because it gives you some space away from the toxicity. And, my perspective is that you can't heal in the same environment that's harming you. So if
Yes.
you could take the leave, please take a leave. And Dr. Rochelle, was thinking about one of my previous guests talked about dreaming. And she
Yeah.
talked about, many times toxic situations or the fear of leaving toxic situations rob us of our dreams, right?
Yes.
So you
Yes.
brought us right back to talk about the dreams, okay?
Definitely.
So I just want to say, women, you're watching this. I can attest. I've worked with Dr. Rosché. She has helped me tremendously. I have a totally different relationship to money. I paid off one of my credit cards, right? I'm on a path to going to the other stuff, right? And it gave me a greater sense of confidence about my ability to deal with money. And I also want to say that I was working with Dr. Rosché when I resigned from my job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And having that sense of support from her really helped me in terms of dealing with, oh my God, what did I just do? Right. Not that I regretted it, because I don't regret it at all. Right.
Yes.
But just that money thing, like, okay, what am I going to do? And Dr. Roche was such a support to me. And she's just so positive. If you could just sense her positive energy, right? She just you just want to just be around her, right? You feel good just being
Yes.
around her. So I encourage anyone, if you are interested, if you're ready to leave a toxic job, please contact Dr. Roche. I will put all of her information again in the description section of my YouTube channel. If you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, Lift As We Climb Consulting, Wellness Services, please do so right now. Please share this information with other Black women because so many of us are going through these toxic jobs, right? And we feel stuck, right? This
Mm-hmm.
video was an opportunity for you to find out how do you get unstuck, right, with your money? How do you get unstuck? Okay.
Yes.
So pay attention to that. And I do want to make one little thing. Oh, wait, taking a leave. I'm sorry, I'm just reading a comment.
Yeah.
Taking a leave is a good information. I wish I would have take a leave before I quit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you can take a leave, please take a
Most
leave.
people, I
Okay.
mean, oftentimes, I guess what you're saying, people think about leaving their job for a long time and then they get fed
Yes.
up right away and they leave.
Yeah.
And
They're
that's
like,
what,
I'm
like,
out.
if you're thinking about it already, think about getting the leave.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I wanted to just tell the audience that I have just one more slot for the Black Women Leaving Toxic Jobs coaching program, group coaching program. So one more slot. So I have a
Woohoo.
cohort going on now. The next cohort starts February 22nd. If you want to be that one last slot, if you want that one last slot, I'll put the information description section as well. So for this slot, for this round, the price is going to go up after this round. Okay. So I gave two promotional rounds, right? The price is going to go up after this one. Okay. So, and I'm going to have a free training about Black women leaving toxic jobs coming up. If you want to get on the notification list for that, I'll also put that in the description section as well. Okay. So again, please contact Dr. Roche. Please get her books on Amazon. please book a call with her. I cannot tell you, she has just been just magnificent in terms of helping me with my journey with rethinking money. Okay. I can absolutely vouch for her. Okay. So again, subscribe to my channel, Look Dance Climb Consulting, Wellness Services. And on Thursday, we're going to have a guest, or we're going to have a repeat, a follow up to the HR conversation we had. So with Charmaine Greenford and her twin, Dr. Claire Greenford, as we're talking about HR, and it's HR gaslighting me, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of us have this experience like, what is happening here? Okay. So tune in on Thursday. We're going to be having this conversation at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, and 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock Pacific. Okay. So I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday. Okay. So thank you. And Rosché, if you could just stay on. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.